Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural AppliedHE Exchange Fireside Chat. My name is Mandy Mock, and I am the founder and CEO of AppliedHE. AppliedHE is the new kid on the block for international higher education ratings and branding. I founded AppliedHE in January this year after working for QS for 17 years. Thank you very much for joining our fireside chat today with the topic Global Higher Education Post-COVID-19, Shared Experiences, Shared Future. Today's webinar features three distinguished speakers from three different countries that have largely managed to control the COVID-19 epidemic and have already experienced the new normal. The aim of this webinar is to give you, as participants, some insights into what the new post-COVID-19 normal looks like in Taiwan, New Zealand, and South Korea. We're pleased to have joining us today from Taiwan, Changchun Christian University, Dean of Global Engagement, Dr. Min-Yu Lee Michelle. From South Korea, Kyung Hee University, Director of International Affairs, Mr. Chun Hyun Kim. And from New Zealand, University of Auckland, Director of International, Mr. Brad Berquist. Aside from sharing practical experiences and lessons learned, the speakers will also share their views on what the future holds, which changes are likely to be permanent, what opportunities have been created by the crisis. We hope that this unique combination of experiences will help you in your work as you develop your institution for the COVID-19 new normal. Please allow me to also thank Changchun Christian University, CJCU in Taiwan, for being the hosting partner of this webinar. Your support is greatly appreciated. And without further ado, allow me to hand over to our moderator, Peter Stack, who will explain the fireside chat house rules.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us from all over the world. It's very excited to have you. The rules are quite simple. What we're trying to do is have some interaction between yourself and the speaker. So we'll start off with the speakers having a short presentation about the situation in their respective countries. And after that, we basically want to open up the discussion. First, focus a little bit on the current challenges, and after that, the future views. Now, you're very welcome as the discussion goes on to post questions in the Q&A section. And what you can also do is you can raise your hand. And if you do that, we will try and bring you on board as a panelist with video so that you really can make a comment and have some interaction. But I must warn you, it's the first time that we're trying this. So my apologies in advance if that doesn't quite work 100% to plan. Now, without further ado, I'd like to hand over to our first speaker, Michelle from CJCU, with the situation in Taiwan.
Can everyone hear me? Okay, I hear myself. So let me share my PowerPoint first. All right. So, good morning and good evening, everyone. My name is Min-Yu Lee from Office of Global Engagement of CJCU in Taiwan. Well, I'll firstly use some time quickly introduce CJCU, then turn to how Taiwan and Taiwan's higher education have done to contain the outbreak of the coronavirus. And lastly, I will present some challenges ahead for the higher education post-COVID-19. Okay, founded in 1993, CJCU is now 26 years old. Currently, there are almost 650 faculties and the student population reach 8,500. CJCU is a comprehensive university with 5 colleges, 5 schools, 5 education centers, and 5 research centers. CJCU is located in a very convenient site. We're the only university in Taiwan which has a train station at the campus. So it takes us only 5 minutes to be able to take the high-speed rail and then quickly move around Taiwan. For the past years, we have devoted a lot of efforts on turning CJCU and developing CJCU as a leading university with social responsibility. So in 2018, we received the Education Award in National Sustainable Development Award. And we are the only university to win the Taiwan Corporate Sustainability Awards. In 2020, because of our efforts on the restoration of Urban River ecology, we won the University Social Responsibility Award in Human Nature Synergism category. We're also proud of our World Prize beer, Shichun, CJCU Brown Sugar Beer. This beer won the world's best winner and Taiwan winner in World Beer Awards in 2018 to gain the recognition both locally and worldwide. We have strong program working with UCTS, University College of Technology Sarawak, one of our Malaysian partners. We launched our UAV Research Center in 2018, and currently CJCU is the only drone flight license issue institution in Southern Taiwan. We sincerely hope to invite anyone who is interested in CJCU to come and visit us. You'll be able to see and enjoy everything I just introduced to you, especially the beer. You should never miss it. Come back to the COVID-19 epidemic. At the moment, the total confirmed case has reached 5.6 million, and the death toll is almost 300, indicating the COVID-19 epidemic has not ended yet. While in Taiwan, the confirmed cases until now is 441 in total 7 days. And as one of the closest all, let me use Taiwan's former vice president, who is also an epidemiologist known worldwide, Dr. Chen Jianren's words. Prudent action, rapid response, and early deployment are the 3 key points of the success of COVID-19 control in Taiwan. Taiwan's health officials haven't had a day off over 3 months. They held daily press conference to report on the situation. They are making the information as transparent as possible to build the trust between the government and the people. They also quickly prohibited mask export and purchase machines to produce masks to ensure the local supply. They make policies to guide people how they should behave to protect themselves and announce new punishments for spreading disinformation about the virus. From the photos, you could see how Taiwanese people maintain appropriate social distance in public areas, and people wear masks while taking public transportation. We even utilize transparent petitions to block each other in restaurants and offices. We have tried hard to keep our life as normal as possible. And the mask rationing plan is a measure of the first attempt to cope with the shortage of the virus containment resources. Cooperating with Taiwan's health insurance plan, on February the 6th, Taiwan government implemented the policy for people to purchase the mask by names. At the beginning, while the internal supply of masks is not enough, people were only allowed to buy 2 masks per week. At the time, with the trust to the government, some Taiwan citizens spontaneously initiated "I am okay, you get the mask first" movement and get the wide response from the public, and so to calm the chaos caused by the shortage of masks. We believe in the government's call. As long as you have no respiratory disease, no fevers, no history of traveling to China in the past 14 days, and no urgent needs to go to the hospital, the masks can be left to the frontline people. I think it is this trust between Taiwan government and Taiwan people to make Taiwan experience worthy of being learned. Then we apply smart technology to develop the online e-mask ordering system to reduce the inconvenience of mask purchase. And with the increase of the production, we were able to buy 3 in 7 days. Until now, we're allowed to purchase 9 masks in 14 days. At the same time, our Taiwan team increased the mask production lot. Therefore, we're able to provide more assistance to the international community by sending masks, medicines, technologies, and to the countries in need to overcome the difficulties together. We want the world to know that not just Taiwan can help, but Taiwan is helping. Taiwan is a good force in the world. In addition to the mask policy, the health officials are also using social media to post either short video clips or ads to educate the public to correct and relevant information on virus and how to prevent COVID-19 to fight the misinformation and disinformation to avoid panic and confusion. And the world mainstream media have started reporting Taiwan's performance in epidemic prevention is the best in the world. These reports were mainly about how Taiwanese not only are able to go to work and classes as usual during the pandemic, but also are able to do talk shows and play baseball games. The famous YouTuber Newsie Yasin even posted a short clip on his Facebook fan page named Nas Daily, indicating that Taiwan should be recognized as a coronavirus hero. While schools are being shut down in the countries across the world, Taiwan is one of the few countries that still make people live normally and schools open as usual based on the good COVID-19 containing measures. At the beginning of the epidemic, the MOE of Taiwan sent guidelines to schools to instruct the prevention measures. MOE indicated that if there's one confirmed case if there's one confirmed case happen, all face-to-face classes need to be suspended for 2 weeks. If two or more people are tested positive at the same institution, all face-to-face cases at that institution or particular campus must be suspended for 2 weeks and delivered online. Therefore, in order to make the epidemic not happen on the campus, we were very careful to fight against the virus. Everyone needs to register before entering to the campus and take the temperature when getting into every building. And we sterilized classrooms before and after using them. CJCU quickly responded to COVID-19 containment by incorporating with the smart technology and developing the digital temperature pass through CJCU live chatbot, Pastry. This live chatbot also helped check the current stock of the mask in the nearby pharmacy and offer the online system for students to report and monitor their health conditions. We also rearranged the dining spaces at the campus and put signs on the floor to remind students to maintain appropriate social distance. We integrate technology to the school activities. Working with our overseas partners, we hold online lectures for students for both sides. We also use internet to hold our staff training sections and school committee meetings to prevent cluster infection. We even moved the annual physical student recruitment information section to online streaming section with a famous YouTuber, Nick, in Taiwan, who is also studying at CJCU, and together with the VTuber Ella, who was co-created by CJCU School of Information Design and our industrial partner in Japan, Kadokawa International Edutainment. We successfully held 5 online streaming sections to promote CJCU and interacted with potential students and parents. The plan every higher education institution have prepared for the semester.
Michelle, can I interrupt you for 1 second? Can you speak a little bit louder? Because we're getting some complaints that they can't hear your very interesting explanation. I'm very sorry about that.
All right. Thank you for the reminding. All right. So the plan for every higher education institution have prepared for the semester has become infeasible because of the COVID-19. Although we try hard to cope with this change by offering online learning to prevent the discontinuity of the education student will receive, questions regarding this distance learning remains unanswered, such as how to assure the qualification of the faculty offering distance learning program, and how to assure the quality of the online education under the emergency, etc. Another challenge related to online learning is that how to make up for the lacks in this mode of learning, such as student-student or student-faculty physical interactions and education, interactions and communication, and the development of social relationships. We need to spend more time further to further explore the answers to these questions. Besides, the international mobility has been stopped because of the pandemic, and we have no idea when it will resume. How to achieve the goal of higher education internationalization under this situation becomes one of the challenges to universities as well. Most importantly, how to keep the organization flexible to adapt to next worldwide change like this pandemic will become the core task for every higher education institution post COVID-19. Okay, so this is just a short brief of the situation in Taiwan and some of the comments from my perspective. I love to answer any questions in the Q&A discussion time later. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Then we immediately continue to the next speaker, all the way from Korea, Mr. Chun Hyun Kim from Kyung Hee University. Are you able to share screen?
I have to start.
Yeah. Let's bring you on. We just keep you going right away, and then we have a lot of time for questions and answers. And again, I think some people have a bit of problem with their sound system. So if you can speak as clearly as possible, that's appreciated by some of our attendees. Thank you so much.
Are you able to see the PowerPoint here?
Yes, we can clearly see it on my
Okay,
side.
Peter, thank you very much. How is my voice? Is it, are you able to hear me?
I believe so. I believe so. Yes, please continue. Yeah, it's loud and clear.
Okay. Uh, I would like to start out with this slide. And it's kind of sad because you can see in the middle, our students generally did not wear masks when they were taking photos, but nowadays they are wearing masks. Okay, I would like to briefly tell you about the COVID situation in Korea. Currently, we have around 11,000 confirmed cases. Actually, today there was an additional 40 more. We believe it was because the high school students and the middle school students are coming back to school nowadays. You can say the largest age group uh, from 20 to 29, where our university and college students are, is 28% of the total. But luckily, no one has died. I would like to give you the key words for the government's policy here is openness, transparency, and democracy. So Korea has not been in any lockdown, and the government is really focusing on preemptive, prompt, precise mass testing, contact tracing with the innovation method, technology, and citizen participation. So social distancing does not mean emotional distancing. Okay, in Korea, we do mass testing with walk-through screening stations and also drive-through screening stations inside your car. Generally, we are using the PCR test kits results. It comes out in 6 hours, but there is one company who developed one, and next month it's going to hit the market, and this will come out in just 1 hour. So after you receive the test, generally you'll get a message on your cell phone the day after. And the tests are all free if you have the symptoms. And on the left, you can see that some of the tests are like the phone booths. Another is vigorous contact tracing, and we do use it with human context, calling people up using the SNS, but also we are using the technology. In the beginning, one of our students, Lee Dong-hoon, developed a Corona map, and it really shows where the people were traveling around. So if we wanted to avoid going there, it really helped the other people. We currently, we believe and hope that our first wave has given away. Generally, it was sent out in February the 2nd, and the cluster was from a church and also in the Daegu cluster. Uh, Luckily, in April 15, we had the general elections, and in April 30th, when we had the holiday season, there was an Itaewon bar nightclub cluster, And we are in the private school cluster, the coin karaoke cluster, and the high school and middle school cluster. And the citizen participation is very important in the daily life distancing. President Moon Jae-in also mentioned that it isn't over until it is over. Uh, on the right, on the left side, you can say that nowadays when you come through the airport, everybody has to do a 14-day quarantine, and they will ask you to install an app in your cell phone, and then you have to kind of report every day on your temperature and your conditions, and you are not allowed to go outside your room or your housing facilities. On the right side, you can say from May 6th, we kind of developed a new concept of not social distancing, but distancing in a daily life. And you stay home from 3 to 4 days if you're sick. Keep a distance of 2 arm lengths between you and other people. Wash your hands for 30 seconds. Cough, sneeze into your sleep. Ventilate your space at least twice a day and disinfection regularly. So you can say that government kind of wanted to have a balance with the safety and also with the social and economic activities. So there were a lot of things that we took for gratitude, and quite recently we were be able to hold the general elections with 68 participants coming to vote for it. And just like Taiwan, we were able to open the Korean League Baseball and also the national museums. Of course, with some kind of limitation, they are open now. And also the K-League football open, and we had the Korean Ladies Professional Golf Association Championship. And from last week, we started from the high school seniors, and then we are gradually moving on to the other high school students, the middle school, elementary school, and also the kindergarten. Okay, I would like to share with you with the experience that we had at Kyung Hee. Uh, we have over 4,500 international students. For outbound students, generally we send out from short-term programs to semester-based programs over around 3,000 to 4,000. And for inbound exchange and study abroad students, we have over 500. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the graduation ceremony, freshman ceremony, and student orientation. And the beginning of the semester, spring semester, was delayed for 2 weeks. We had to start online teaching, quiz and homeworks, and that was all decided by the professors. For mid-examination, there was assignments. We were able to open face-to-face teaching, but this was decided by the professors from April 20th. And the final examination, we hope that all of them will be able to come to the classrooms, but this will also be decided by the professors. Generally, for the face-to-face teaching, one of the basic protocols that we are insisting on is for all of the students to wear masks and also to clean their hands with their sanitation in front of the building or maybe the classroom before they enter. Uh, from February the 7th, we kind of limited all the buildings to one door for entrance and exit. So when you go in, you must take your temperature and you have to clean your hands and also these kind of procedures were enforced. And then on February the 23rd, the Korean government leveled to the highest alert level. And because of this, Kyung University established the COVID Emergency Control Tower on February the 27th, and the president was in charge. And we were supported by the Kyung Medical Center. So the Center for Teaching and Learning helped us by uh, by doing workshop and seminars on online teaching methods and technology. The university provided the professors with studios for recording. And because of the real-time streaming, we had to increase the capability of our servers. And there was always this quality issue, problems and improvements, but we got the feedback from the student body, the university newspaper. And also, some of the students are asking for a kind of reimbursement of a certain percentage of the tuition, but we are still in the process of negotiating with the students. From March 12th, for when you enter the building, for non-ID holders, you have to write your name, cell phone number, purpose of visit, who you meet, and check-in time and check-out time on a log. And on March 20th, we set up temperature checkpoints at the entrance of major university buildings. So this was a unit that was sent in our central library. So before the student came into the entrance, she had to clean her hand with a sanitizer. Okay. And for the administration staff, we did telecommuting from their homes. This was from March the 10th until May 6th. But now all of the staff members are in the offices. For outbound students, we communicated with the students by email and kakaotalk uh, because each country had different situation, and some of them decided not to uh, receive or maybe send back the international students. Some of them did not do classroom. They changed into online delivery. So the students and parents had to make a tough decision whether to stay in that country or maybe come back and enroll in our program again, or maybe take the online courses that the host university offered. So on administration point, our Office of Academic Affairs received the late course request for the students who canceled their study abroad opportunities. Uh, in February and March, all students from any Chinese airport had to do a mandatory 14-day quarantine at the university dormitory. So all of the expenses was picked up by the university. The students were picked up at the airport, and this was supported by the Seoul city. And then on March 19, the Korean government did special entry procedures. So all Koreans and foreign nationals entering Korea had to receive a temperature screening and filled out a questionnaire. For inbound students, we communicated by email, SNS, KakaoTalk, Weibo, WeChat, Line. And for exchange students, because all of the courses was online, we tried to give them an interaction time with our Korean students. So we matched them up with IFCC Student Club. The government requested us to trace all self-quarantine students, and also the university supported our inbound students with masks and hand sanitizers. From April 4th, the Korean government imposed mandatory 14-day quarantine for all passengers arriving from all parts of the world. We are doing our best to safeguard our university. Our university remains open with precautionary measures to protect our students, professors, staff, and local community. We are maintaining a high degree of flexibility to achieve academic and research success. It's very sad because on the background is our central library, and as you can see, there are no students right now. I would like to finish off by someone who has really helped our country a lot. I believe that in Taiwan, there is a dog, always the best friend of man, who has helped you. But in Korea, we have a penguin. His name is Pengsu. And then Pengsu means Peng is penguin, and Su means superior. So he's a kind of super penguin, and he's man's best friend in Korea. He tells us, he teaches us how to wash our hands, how to sneeze or cough. So please stay safe and stay strong. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that presentation. As we move on to the next speaker, I'm just going to launch a very quick poll about, yes, which countries you might be from. So you can click that away from your screen so you can see our next speaker, who is Mr. Brett Berquist. So yeah, please go ahead. Brett?
Yeah, I'll share my screen.
Yes, please, go ahead. I think you can bump up the next screen. There's no nothing stopping you. Yeah.
Here we go.
Fantastic.
Good. Is that working? Can you see my
Yeah,
screen?
I think we can see you. Can everybody hear?
Yeah, good. And you can see my screen? Well,
Yes, we can see
my
your screen
share.
clearly.
Great, great. Well, thanks for happy to be here. It's about 12:30 a.m. my time, so if I nod asleep in the middle, you'll understand why. But I'm going to focus a little bit less on the techniques of how we handled the crisis and a little bit more on how we're responding from the international education standpoint. But just to give a quick summary of where we are in New Zealand, we've had a total of 1,154 cases, 21 deaths. Over 5% of our population has been tested, and for the last 5 days, we've had no new cases, and we have no one currently in hospital. We implemented a 4-level alert system in March, and on the 25th of March, we went to level 3 with the programmed lockdown 2 days later on the 27th of March. That gave the university 48 hours to move all of our course teaching online. Which for us, we hadn't been doing that much teaching online. So that was quite an undertaking, and really excited about how flexible we've proven to be in that environment. And then since the 13th of May, we're at level 2. We are finishing our semester in a remote mode, but as of tomorrow, we'll be allowing some staff to return to offices with sort of social distancing and other things put into place. And we are looking at returning to classroom settings for semester 2, if all goes well. And this is just some of the messaging. The government has led a very successful communications campaign. Every day, our Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, at 1 p.m. gives a press conference. So she's been personally fronting every single day of the week the media presence. And that's been very effective in getting a high level of compliance from the New Zealand public. And from the beginning, she's always used the motto to be kind. So kia kaha, kia maya, kia manawanui, be strong, be brave, be steadfast, and be kind. That's been a big part of the national messaging there. About the university itself, we're the flagship university in New Zealand. We have 8 universities in New Zealand, all of them very high quality universities. The University of Auckland is the largest and the most prestigious. We're ranked 83rd in the world in QS. And for the second year in a row, we're #1 for overall global impact in a new ranking from Times Higher that looks at how we're progressing the different sustainable development goals. And one of the outcomes of the pandemic and the crisis right now is we actually think we'll have an even stronger position on sustainability as a result of the crisis. One of the things we've learned in dealing with crises, I've dealt with lots of crises over my 30-some-year career. This is obviously the biggest one, but is to have really consistent and frequent communications. So every Friday, I send out an email to all of our offshore stakeholders, and then I go onto social media and we post both about how we're handling the response to the crisis, different steps the university might have taken that week, different policy decisions, or updates on the health front. But we've also been posting a bit of a social media campaign around what it's like to transition to working from home. So every week we have a staff member who's featured and kind of talking about how they're navigating this space, because it's not easy. I mean, there's been a lot of frustration and concerns, and so it's been important to reach out to staff and to support them and to recognize the challenges of trying to juggle your regular life and for a long period of time having your children at home as well. So we've communicated on both those fronts. What's the health situation? What is the university doing in that space? And what does it mean for the staff at the international office? Kind of an empathy message there. In terms of our thinking about where this might leave us, so I'm not going into great detail about the recovery and so on. New Zealand is a fairly positive story. We're a country of 5 million people. We actually just peaked over 5 million because of the number of Kiwis who came home to ride out the crisis. Before that, we were under 5 million. And we're in a pretty good situation now, just being very careful to try to avoid a second wave coming out. But we are moving back to a new normal progressively. In terms of international education, we initially were talking a lot about recovery. How are we going to recover? We have almost 9,000 international students studying with us, and we send 1 in 4 of our graduates have an overseas learning experience as part of their studies. So very international university. And so how are we going to get back to that? And as we thought about it more, we've been saying it's actually not about recovery. It's not about returning to where we were before. It's about renewal, sort of taking advantage of the crisis, looking for the silver lining, and finding a way to accelerate and kind of leapfrog forward in some of the strategies we were working on. In terms of our recruitment, we're actually finding ourselves in a situation of brand strength given the national response and some of the star power of our Prime Minister and her fronting the communications on this in such a consistent way. So we're finding some brand value there. We think it's really important, more important than ever, to emphasize student support. We have a national hardship fund funded by the government. The University of Auckland set aside a $3 million fund, a hardship fund. We made a number of policy shifts, allowing for easier suspensions of studies for difficult cases. We gave all students a small grade bump in semester 1 just to recognize the challenges here. We've arranged a lot more flexibility in testing. We deployed student buddies, 80 students who actually contact those who are studying offshore online to help them in their native language, check in with them, make sure their learning is going well. Just a lot of different things we've been doing. We have, I think we've sent out 400 laptops and 100 hotspots for internet to those who didn't have them. Not so much international, but some of our local population. So every week we've been really focusing on how can we support our students and help them through this. And I mentioned before, we're looking at it as an opportunity to really jump forward in some of the things that we were progressing. For example, we had been moving towards taking a climate action position for my office on our travel. Now, obviously, offsetting carbon at the current moment when no one is traveling is a very easy thing to do. The budget is quite low, but we're making some commitments to how we're going to handle that when we come back to being able to travel. We've been focusing on really building a much more robust digital ecosystem for conversion and actually handling our leads through for applications. And this has given us some energy and some space to invest more into that. I mentioned the climate action. And then also, New Zealand has been pretty much focused on coming to New Zealand to study, and most of our students want to do that. But we see that as a result of this crisis, we'll probably end up with a much more diversified delivery mode. We are doing joint programs offshore, but we think we'll be doing more of that. We'll have more blended delivery in this space. And we do think that as unemployment rises around the world, employability will become ever more important, and we're working on rolling out a micro-credential policy, both at the University of Auckland, and there is also a national strategy now with our Ministry of Education for micro-credentials to recognize the current situation on employability. Within the IO, so I mentioned some of this before, the frequency of weekly comms, really focusing on student support, finding ways to mitigate market share loss over time, more T&E partnerships, hybrid delivery, looking closely at each market because each market is going through the health crisis in a different way and each government is deciding the mobility of their students in a different pattern. So it has greatly increased our need to really keep a close focus on those market settings. Some of that we're doing directly, some of that through intelligence providers, some of it through our partnership of Education New Zealand, which is a Crown agency that represents the education sector for offshore education. And then we're working to partner with some of our key stakeholders on joint business recovery plans. And I mentioned the digital recruitment ecosystem. So I'll just conclude with one new thing we're doing that I'm about to announce tomorrow morning. We're launching the PR and the marketing tomorrow. But we have a number of students who are studying online with us in China, successfully, but there are some frustrations for going into a second semester of studying entirely online. We are working with our government right now to define an acceptable gold star quarantine system to gradually reopen our borders for international students to come back when the time is right, decided by our government. We're collaborating with them. In the meantime, we know that we won't be able to have everyone back for the start of semester 2, which is late July for us. So we are offering those students who are studying online in China a chance to relocate to one of our partner universities. We have some large joint programs recognized by the Chinese Ministry of Education at 2 locations, and we're allowing our students to relocate there, taking all of our courses online, but in a cohort setting with local tutorial supports, student dynamics, student activities, and social activities at some of those campuses. So most of what we've been doing is really trying to find ways to figure out how we can better support our students as we work through this and move into a new normal. So that's me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that explanation. Let me quickly share the polling results so that you all have an idea who's in the room. We primarily have at least voters coming from the Asian region, as you can see. Yeah, that was very interesting. Just to remind you of the house rules again, you may pose questions in the Q&A, and you're also very free to raise your hand. If you raise your hand, I will try and pull you up as a panelist so that we can see your face and hear you. So please only raise your hand if you know that your IT system is working 100%. Thank you very much for that. Are there any urgent questions from the audience at this time? If not, then I'd like to perhaps ask some of my own questions. I was wondering if some of you could share perhaps a #1 tip for ensuring successful online distance learning. Like, what is the #1 thing that you should do? Or what is some lesson that you kind of learned and wish you knew beforehand? Would any of you be able to comment on that or speak on that?
Crickets, no one wants to take it.
Brett, do you have any suggestions for us since you're the last speaker?
Sure. And of course, that wasn't my role to oversee that. That was handled by our Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic. But I think for us, it was the speed. We had a very successful learning management system and varying levels of use of that. So some academic staff had embraced it and had gone into hybrid learning and had very innovative lesson plans, had completely rethought their pedagogy.
Mm-hmm.
Others were asked overnight to regroup and do everything that way. So I think ideally it's the longer time you have to plan. But I think one of the things that we've also learned is you really need to fundamentally rethink how you sequence things. If you're simply taking your standing lectures and delivering them in what happens to be an internet platform instead of in an amphitheater, it's not the most successful experience for the students. So we had a lot of guidance. We deployed a learning design specialist to help the faculties. And then for the student perspective, we hired, as I mentioned, 80 what we called study buddies who would check in with the students, not about their courses, but just how is that experience going overall? How is the online going? And then it took us 2 weeks we actually ended up contracting a different VPN arrangement to deliver in China. And once we did that, the speed increased greatly and the student satisfaction went up exponentially because for the first 2 weeks, there were a lot of complaints about the time to download and so on. So having your tech systems in order, rethinking the pedagogy completely, not simply transferring the classroom traditional to online, and then deploying support systems to help the faculty design that and to help the students through the experience have been some of the lessons we've learned in the process.
How do you quickly redeploy the pedagogy? Because you have a professor who's been teaching the same course for 20 years and you say you've got to quickly redeploy. It sounds fantastic, but it is really difficult to do.
I don't know, to be honest. I
okay,
mean,
this is not your field. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
I started my career as an academic. It was many years ago, and I can't imagine how I would have gone to rethinking all of that on such a short notice. I mean, I think it was really, really stressful for a lot of
Mhm.
a lot of our academics. One thing we did on our end is we actually declared a teaching free week. So
Okay.
we suspended everything for 1 week. It was not enough time because people had to pack up their offices, figure out a new schedule at home, make sure their tech worked. But we actually sort of stopped everything for 1 week and said, okay, this is a week for everyone to get ready. And then we
Yeah.
put a lot of resource into supporting the faculties. But it was a very difficult and continues to be a challenging process.
Okay, we have a question here about virtual exchanges and mobility. Um, does anybody of any one of yours want to comment on that? Is it something that you think is worthwhile to pursue to get international students into at least a virtual classroom and get your students perhaps into a virtual classroom? Or because it seems like we're trying to kind of replace physical mobility with virtual mobility. Perhaps you have some ideas or thoughts about that. Also, Michelle or Jun Yun.
Yeah, I think I could just present my perspective on this. Well, under this pandemic, I think there's no way to avoid the integration of the technology into everything in higher education, even the mobility. This participant present this issue by using virtual mobility. That means that everything will be implemented through internet, and that's possible, but that's also would sacrifice some of the physical classroom learnings and
Yeah.
the physical exposure of cultures for international students. I mean, we kind of sacrifice the opportunities for the students on this part. So I would say that we probably need to come up with a good program that perfectly combine in-person learning and the online learning, so that students could gain advantages from both modes. And also from my point of view, I think the integration of internet and technology in higher education will be further implemented. And so we better make ourselves ready to face our digital society in the future, in the near future. Though in
Yeah.
Taiwan, we did not implement online teaching on a large scale, but the emergency adoption of virtual learning in short notice will still likely require more time and resources to promote the quality. So I think several months later, when we look back on this pandemic, the way our digital infrastructure affects everything will become apparent in terms of information exchange and human behavior. So
Yeah.
I think the phenomena occurred today will be seen as defining characteristics of our new digital society tomorrow. So
And
yeah,
just talking very briefly about the physical mobility again, we see a question here, people wondering if when are international students returning to Taiwan? I mean, New Zealand, we just heard, is very gently moving in a direction. Is that something you already see in Taiwan, or is this still quite far away?
I think it's close to reopen.
Okay.
We're now in the process of reopening, but we have to cautious about anyone who enter into Taiwan from outside Taiwan, because right now we think the country is quite safe, so we don't want to cause any chaos or panic again. So we're very careful about this, but I think it's going to reopen very soon.
Great. Okay, that's good news. I see a question here about the assessment methods for grading exams in online education. That's one of the big challenges that we hear. Would any of you be able to share a specific point about that, a specific piece of advice? I mean, many universities say, "Oh well, it's a crisis. We'll just hope everybody's honest all of a sudden," which seems a bit naive, especially if this might take a while. Perhaps you can share from Korea or Taiwan or New Zealand a comment on that, the assessment, making sure the quality assurance is still there.
Generally in Korea, in our university, there is a grading system that a professor can give A's or B's to a certain percentage of
Hmm.
the students. But because of the current situation, the university has kind of opened up on that. There is always talking about if they receive some kind of test online, there could be cheating. But
Yeah,
mainly the professors are very concerned about participation, just like in the classroom.
yeah,
So while there is an online going on, you have to be involved with the chatting. You have to be involved with a group discussion, and they will consider that to be participating in that classroom. And then in between, they kind of allocate a certain time for doing quiz and also give homework. So I guess that this is not something that we traditionally did, but this is something that we have to kind of adjust, not, as Brent mentioned, not repeating the things that we did, but we have to kind of rebuild this and recreate this within the system, I believe.
I see, I see. That
Yeah,
that
so
sounds very interesting. Oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I also want to talk about a situation in Taiwan. I just checked this with our Teaching and Learning Resource Center today. And I think cheating or assessment for online learning could be an issue. So we probably need to think of a brand new mode of assessment other than or very different from the way we practice in physical classroom learning. So in order to avoid cheating, probably we could just implement an open book exam. So let them use, totally different assessment way and different from closed book exam in the physical classroom.
Yeah,
So they
so that you,
probably could avoid some of the problems.
yeah, that you really were start to rethink that. I realize that we're already starting to run out of time. This has gone very fast. I'll just throw in the new poll, which is about when do you think a new normal will come back? Will it be within 6 months from now, or will it be later? And while we do it, I will experiment. I see one person has raised their hand. Let me just see if we can get this person as a panelist. This is, where do I see them on my screen? I don't see them. This is Mohammed Nurum Nandi. I'm so sorry for horribly mispronouncing your name. I believe I can unmute you now and ask to start video, and then you can make your comment. Can you hear me, Mr. Mohammed or Nurambi? Yes, there you are. Yes, fantastic. This works. We've got some audience interaction. Hi. Go
Hi.
ahead and ask your question or make your comment. And please tell us where you're calling in from.
Yes, yes, Dr. Mohammed from Prince Sultan University in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Thanks for all of you for it's a very interesting discussion from different parts of the world. And I'm part of the G20. We have a think tank 20, a policy brief on the higher education and the COVID-19 impact. What I'd like to share from Saudi Arabia, we have around 1.62 million students in the higher education, and we are locked down. It's all our virtual education. My question to the panelists and the comments as well, the post-COVID-19, I mean the fall semester, and lots of discussion about the social distancing and so on. So how, because the social distancing rule in different countries are very different, and from the government side or even the higher education society or organization, there is no such good system or good policy, which or a model that the university can follow. So is there any thing you would like to share? Because that they have 10 people rule, 20 people rule, 30 people rule. It's very confusing. And so I think it's very challenging for the university to make up with a very good solution on that.
Okay.
And another point,
Oh,
all the panelists, they discussed about various things. It's very informative. But health and well-being is missing. It does affect both faculties, the students. It's a trauma. They
yeah.
were in 3 months as a faculty is affecting me as well, because the home became office. as
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of you.
yeah.
Like, yeah. So I think this thing should be addressed in the higher education side as well.
Okay, if I can, because we're running out of time, I'd like to ask the panelists to focus on the last question, kind of the mental health and well-being of the faculty members and the students, and how we can do this the long term. And Mr. Mohammed, I'm going to downgrade you again. I apologize. Thank you so much for your question and your comment. So we go back to the panelists. Yeah, the kind of the mental health well-being aspect. If you could comment perhaps on that from your institution. Who would like to start? Maybe Brett? Go ahead.
I think sharing could be one of good way to take care of the psychological well-being and support the student faculties at the campus. So I think we could, try to engage people inside universities more in the learning or interactions in the campus. So what I'm saying is that we need to promote productive connectedness, and it's not simply providing interactions between people, but really provide opportunities for people inside the institution or universities to not only increase their mutual understanding. They could share their experience, their comments on COVID-19, the feelings, but more importantly to reciprocally learn from each other. I think that would be helpful.
Great. And perhaps this question also to Brett, kind of the general well-being, what do we really need to not forget in this
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean, I
crisis?
think this has been really important. I mean, overall, mental health has been increasingly a part of student life. We actually, last semester, had a specialist who does research on the mental health of international students. We had over 150 people come from throughout New Zealand for a seminar we put on with a colleague of mine who's on the research committee of the International Education Association of Australia. So there's been a lot of focus about this down under in general, and in the context of the current crisis, I think we need to be mindful of the fact that you just go back to good old Maslow's pyramid. A number of our students were getting back to very basic needs of having enough money to actually eat and support themselves. Our government took steps to immediately as we went into lockdown, the government set aside quite a lot of money, and workers could apply, employees could apply for $585 a week over a 12-week period of economic help. And that was paid out automatically. It was a 5-minute form and it hit bank accounts within 24 hours directly in with very few questions asked. Now, it's a small country. The tax system is directly linked to the banks and so on, so it was easier to do. We also allowed international students to increase their work time. If they were already employed, they couldn't go out and start a new job, but they could increase their work time. And then the university, we set aside a $3 million hardship fund to address these sort of things. And then there's a national hardship fund as well. We have in New Zealand what we call our international student well-being strategy, which is led by the government. And we've been giving a lot of grants to smaller organizations to focus on counseling and mental health. So it's a big focus of what we do here in New Zealand. And one thing we did, working with our student association, we had a university mental health day just to focus on this and give it more visibility. And there's been a lot of virtual fitness classes and really promoting different counseling options, both for the students and for the staff. Because let's not forget, this is impacting the staff quite a bit as well.
Yeah.
Their own personal stressors of having family they're worried about while trying to deliver on their day job. And more close to home within our office, we try to model the acceptance that there'll be changes in what people can deliver and how quickly they can deliver it, just recognizing the difficult conditions.
Great. From Korea, did you quickly want to comment, or shall we quickly move on to one or two other issues? If it's okay with the speakers, we'd like to continue for about 10 more minutes because there were so many questions.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
I believe that when you say about well-being, it's a combination of mental and also financial matters. So
Yeah.
actually, the future is unknown now, not only for us, for the students. So I guess that currently fear is greater than the facts. I believe that it's very important for us to give the students facts, and as science kind of discovers more things about the virus, then I believe that with close communication with the students, we'll be able to give them more facts for them to decide. And of course, mental counseling is very essential for it. And also financially, I think the basic is eating, having a roof on top, and also wearing. So financial support for that will be very essential for the students.
Mm.
Okay, those were great comments. I think as we slowly move to the closing, where is my poll? I have a screen full of stuff I want to share with you. Here's my poll. I want to just share the results of our audience members. They think that the institution will reach the normal within 6 months, the majority. So we are moving in the right direction. I suppose it's quite positive, 74% to 26%. Thank you very much for voting and with that kind of positive feeling ahead. Brett already mentioned a little bit the idea that you don't kind of want to return to the old, but that this is an opportunity for renewal. And he mentioned a comment, he mentioned climate change offset for travel as an example. I think in some of the comments that have been zipping over my screen, online education, whether that is the future of higher education. Perhaps, and again, this is, we will not, well, we actually are recording this, but we won't point to say, hi, you were wrong 3 years later on. But if you can venture perhaps a prediction, knowing that most of the predictions are always wrong, of what might come out of this crisis, especially in kind of a positive sense, as we try and close this evening's very, very interesting discussion. Shall we start with Michelle this time? Is that all right, Michelle? Or Chun Hyun, would you like to start? Kind of the positives that might come out of this.
Okay, well, maybe I can speak about this in a kind of broader matter. When we say normal, actually, I think that a lot of things that we're talking about is kind of overlapping the fourth industrial revolution that we have already spoken about. So actually, this has been in here for quite a long time. And with that, you can say that it kind of focuses more on non-face-to-face medical services, online education, epidemic prevention, and bioindustry. So also the impact rankings that the higher is kind of a guide map, which I think that we should all look into. The 17 SDGs is, I believe, one of the guideways that we can do. I believe that the current epidemic is a kind of unbalance between human and nature. So I believe that climate change and also equal education, clean water, and sanitation is very a big package that is a kind of future goal for mankind.
Okay, I think that's a wonderful speech. I almost want to vote for you to be the Secretary General of the United Nations. But thank you very much. No, that's I think really good. Linking this to a much bigger issue and a bigger trend. Thank you very much for those comments. If I can also get a final comment, perhaps from Brett before he falls asleep. Keeping in mind that 1 a.m. in New Zealand.
Hey, I don't look
asleep,
asleep, do I? I think I'm.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay. Look, maybe back to the online thing. You know, all the hype we had around MOOCs. What was that, about 10 years ago? That suddenly MOOCs were going to close down universities and be the new thing. Look, I think younger generations are going to still always seek out the experience component of higher education, which is as much about the social dynamics and going through that part of your life and navigating your way to who you want to be. I don't think that's ever going to go away or be delivered completely online for the younger set. But I do think, given that, I mean, some people are saying that 90% of the students on the planet have moved into an online setting, at least for some period of time. You know, there are barely any you know, people holding out, and all teachers have had to figure out how to deal with this, and parents and students and so on. So I think the comfort level obviously will go up. And what I think it means is we'll have a more flexible approach to things, and we're sort of trying to imagine a world where the student will have more autonomy, more control over choosing a mode of delivery and location of delivery. But I don't think online will completely displace the on-campus component. I just think it will become increasingly a part of the mix of what we offer, and that we're all going to have to be more flexible in offering those things for students who want them.
Great. No, thank you very much for that. And then Michelle, to you, I guess the
Yeah.
final word, the final panelist speaking this evening.
Yeah. So I want to say that so Peter, you give us a list of questions, and one of it says that never waste a good crisis.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
think, yeah, this is so true. And this virus has brought the world crisis, but also present us opportunities. So we have to take these opportunities to rethink a lot of things. And one of the things for higher education is to, we have to review our visions, okay, and decide it's what will we do and why will we do that, and what will we do that no other peoples would do that. And also the online thing that, as I mentioned before, that technology is inevitable. Technology application or integration into the education is inevitable. So we might need to come up with a program that combine, again, best in person and online learning. We need to make this balance. And then also, then we need to seek for strong allies and work together with our partners, because these opportunities requires actions, and we need to take actions right now, not anytime in the future. And the opportunity based on the belief that there's no way for us to return to the yesterday. So we need to go forward. And the only way to survive well, all together, we need to work together. We need to develop together, grow together, and then make the world a greater place together. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for those comments. No, it's wonderful to listen to three higher education experts and hear such positive voices, and also from many of the comments that we see online here, a lot of positive energy here in the room. Whereas if you open the newspaper, of course, yeah, the COVID-19 news isn't always happy. So that's a very nice antidote. I would now like to hand over to Mandy to just make her closing statements. Mandy, are you with us in Singapore? We can't hear you. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, let me share my screen.
Ah, great. Yes.
Okay. Is this okay?
Yeah, fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for the very insightful discussion. I have learned a lot, and I hope the same is true for you. I'd like to express my deep appreciation to our speakers for their time and contribution, and also thank you as our participants for joining this event in such large numbers. Allow me to once again thank our hosting partner, Changzhou Christian University in Taiwan, for their great support. Well, this marks the end of our first edition of AppliedHE Exchange Fireside Chat, with many more events planned. And as you can see from my slide here, on the 10th of June at 8 p.m. Singapore time, we will be hosting the first AppliedHE Exchange Squaring the Circle online debate. The motion for the debate is: the COVID-19 pandemic has changed everything in global higher education. This inaugural debate is co-hosted by the City University of Hong Kong and sponsored by Universitas Airlangga of Indonesia. The debate will be moderated by Dr. Kevin Downing from the City University of Hong Kong, and the proposers are Dr. Nigel Healy, Associate Vice President of Global Engagement from the University of Limerick, Ireland, and Professor Sally Chan, Pro-Vice Chancellor and CEO of the University of Newcastle in Singapore. The opposers are Ms. Charlene Allen, Managing Director of Red Emerald and co-founder of the IC Global Partnership, and Mrs. Vinnie Ellie. So be sure to mark that down in your diary, 10th of June, 8 p.m. Singapore time. In the meantime, do check out our AppliedHE Extra News website, where you can submit your institution's news, press releases, and any other news that is deemed to be extraordinary. We will promote them for you worldwide at no charge, of course, so do send in your stories. And we're currently running our AppliedHE Job Ready Rating pilot. So please drop us a line if you would like to learn more about cost-effective strategies for global branding and marketing. And finally, we invite you to submit information about your institution's online degree programs, as we plan to soon launch AppliedHE Online Ready, an authoritative information portal about high-quality online degrees around the world. This will enable you to promote your online degree courses on the global stage, again at no charge. So please do send in information of your online degree courses if you have any, and it can be in any language. All right, thanks very much, everyone. We have come to the end of our inaugural AppliedHE Exchange Fireside Chat. Stay safe, stay positive, and stay tuned to AppliedHE. Thank you. Hope to see all of you very soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you.
Thank you.